Hello, everyone, and welcome our viewers. We are in week 4 of 2026, and Uganda just got out of the polls on the 15th of January, and we will be covering that. We are focusing the episode to analyze the elections, to tell you the tales of the 2026 general elections in Uganda. And to do that with me in studio is the usual suspect, Nicholas Nwamanya. Please say hi to the viewers.
Hello, viewers. Welcome back from the short lockdown. We're glad to have you back as we analyze what happened in this term's election. And
from the bush, we came out with another bushman in the names of Okot Robert. Welcome for the first time on the Checkmate 256.
Thank you, Harold, for inviting me to this platform, Checkmate. I don't know what inspired the name, but as time goes on, probably I'll be able to know.
It's a good thing that you're holding the pieces of the board. So by the time the episode maybe ends, you will know why. But Okot is invited in his capacity as, of course, a very good friend, a very active Ugandan, a lawyer. Okot is also on the board for our cricket. Guys in cricket, those cool games for cool kids.
Not the board, but I sometimes support. Huh? with legal services.
So Nicholas was like, we needed someone who plays golf on the Checkmate, and who else? And Okot, anyway, on the serious note, Okot is an attorney in Uganda and has a very good experience in analysis of elections. So he comes in on and in that capacity to tell us what and election monitoring with his experience and past employment and even current works that he is doing. Okot has a master's in law, so he's an authority where some might not be.
It is a master of laws.
A master of laws. He is a master of laws. So he comes in that capacity, and he will help us step in to analyze some of the issues that we saw in the general election. So as I've said, and for introduction, on the 15th of January, Uganda went to the polls, which were concluded, and within the 48 hours, the Electoral Commission was able to tell us who, according to the Electoral Commission, had won the election in Uganda, with the incumbent, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, garnering 7.9 votes, which accounted for 71.6. In second position, Robert Kyagulanyi, 2.7, that's 24.7. Nandala Mafabi, 1.8. Mugisha Muntu, 0.53. Robert Kasivante, 0.3. Barack Munyagwa, 0.28 with 31,000 votes. Elton John Mabirizi, 0.2. And finally, Frank Burira with 0.41. Those were the results, but also to the polls on the same day were our members of parliament. And by the time you watch this episode, also the mayors and the LC5 will have been voted and maybe announced. That is so far as the 2026 elections are concerned, but there is a lot, and we will try to break as much as we can down for you to have a perspective of what happened and in the eyes and what has made news since the voting time. And to start us off, I think, Nicholas, I have your permission to start with a visitor.
Please.
He's not taking your place.
No, it's okay.
So, Okot, I've just done a general breakdown of the election process, but a lot happened. From the failing biometrics, Nicholas, in our last episode, we did the bold predictions of the 2026 election. We got quite actually higher than the percentage that Museveni got. I think we had over 90% score of the hotly contested elections and what we thought was going to happen. The internet shutdown, the failing of the biometrics, the murders that would be swept under, the involvement of the security. That was the order of the elections. But from the failing biometrics, the intimidation, the murders, the violence, the commercialization of politics. So Okot, from the intimidation, the commercialization, the voter turnout, I know you will just slap through it all because we had a very worrying voter turnout, and we'll break down the figures. But what did you read from your overview of the election process?
Maybe we shouldn't look at this election in isolation of other elections that have happened in Uganda, most especially under the 1995 constitutional dispensation. There are certain things that have been cutting across. Yeah. Apart from the 1996 election, the rest of the elections have been characterized by violence, voter bribery, intimidation of voters. There is a time you had Major Kakoza Mutale's team running through towns, and then there is a time again you'd have what was
there was Chiboko Squad.
Yes. And then of course the opposition tried to retaliate with what they used to call Kumi, where they would have 10 people per village.
Mayumba
Kumi, whereby you'd have people trying to counter what the incumbents were
trying to do.
Yes. So these things have been characteristic in all these elections, apart from 1996, because of 1996.
So the fresh election.
Yes, but also, you know that the current President Museveni was still a darling. So much as it was a competitive election, but you could see that there was really not much need to employ things like violence or voter bribery at that time to ensure that the election is in his favor. Now, the kind of violence we witness from 2006 is now at a heightened level. And probably that now speaks to the character of the incumbent. That you see, whenever there is a threat to
the seat,
violence seems to be one of those tools that will easily come out. Because I don't think opposition politicians would come out to be violent on their own. But when the state machinery comes in to try and stop people from exercising their rights, most especially during campaigns, the violence has to happen.
Even the limitation of the primary facets of democracy.
Yes. And you see, again, we've been seeing the voter turnout increasingly go down. And one of the things that probably scares people away is the kind of violence that happens either during the campaigns or on the election day itself, and post-election violence. You should have seen what happened in 2011. Just after the elections, you had the walk to work.
That's true.
And then you had the state using all its force to try and quell those riots.
I get you. So just on that very point, and Nicholas, just to ask you to chip in. We've talked about, on the previous episodes, the commercialization of politics. And then this regime now seeing that it's not enough, and then the violence. The reports that we have received from the elections, and I think from even X itself, Agora has been doing a profiling of the people that were killed and arrested. We've seen the hundreds in court for common uses. Mwanga Chivumbi has today been charged with terrorism. The 3 deputy presidents of the main opposition party are nowhere to be seen. I think we saw a habeas corpus application for one of the deputy presidents. That goes on and on. What's the story are we picking from this election as far as those two are concerned?
Well, first of all, Harold, and our viewers, welcome to the show. First of all, I don't think personally that having seen the way you phrased it, that violence succeeds the inadequacy of the money thing. I think that, like Comrade Okot was saying, the DNA of the NRA, of the NRM, comes from the NRA. And the NRA was a revolutionary force which came into power on force. So violence has never been, although the Museveni of 86, 96, when the opposition had not become significant, and I saw it when he was talking about in his speech, when he was addressing what you'd call the victory speech. He said that because he has gotten 71%, the election is close to 96. And he was drawing parallels to when he was running with
Kawanga Semogere.
And saying people had rejected him. It was peace everywhere. They were everywhere. Semogere would go. People would say, no. Museveni has brought peace, has pushed out sectarianism, which is correct, honestly speaking, because at that point in time, Museveni was actually, like he has said, a darling of the people. He had brought peace, ended sectarianism. There was a semblance of a sane society that people had not seen since maybe pre-66, So people had yearned for that kind of society that Museveni had tried to create, for that sanity, for the army not to be vicious, for them to be back in the bar, have a disciplined army. He talked about it. He was drawing parallels that 71 is close to 74, which is scored, and that according to him, the opposition had been pushed out. And actually, he was warning, I know it's one of the things we're going to say after, he was warning that the opposition are very lucky that 10 million voters did
not turn up. Yes.
Because he says in NRM we are 18 million. We are
in our yellow book, yes.
We are 20 million.
Yes.
2 million don't vote.
2 million don't vote,
yeah?
We know, but...
So I have got 8 million votes. So meaning 10 million people.
Bang.
But if they had come, this opposition would have like 0.1%, So violence, I think, that has always been part and parcel of
what the NRA
stands for in the face of opposition. When there is no opposition, of course, it's the same way you lock your door in the night. During day, it's day, everyone is there, there's no danger. But when you suspect that there might be danger, you start to employ a scar is there, you lock the door, you put padlock. So that this is how the NRA operates. And I think that some things we could not see them without the opposition. Now, when opposition started to take the front seat, 2001, 2006. Now the true colors of the NRA, then which had metamorphosed,
the way it deals with opposing voices.
With opposing voices came out. And I think that is what we had seen, except that this time around, we have seen it in increasing measure. But I feel like what has happened in this election, honestly speaking, from the campaigns to the elections to post-elections and to everything, the internet shut down, the brutality, scores of people killed in different,
the deployment,
the deployment,
the days right before the election and even after.
Even the official Modva accounts, were releasing videos of guys with guns, like warning you, helicopters hovering over. That's psychological warfare to cower you. That in case of anything, I feel like we have crossed the Rubicon. Yeah? Comrade Okot. And there's a point of no return that we have walked to. I don't know if you remember the painting, Caesar, crossing the Rubicon. So I feel like we have crossed the Rubicon like Julius Caesar. Because the things that we have gotten into, are things that we're not going to go out.
Don't come back from.
Going to come back out from. So when Caesar crosses the Rubicon in BC 42, he effectively ended, the Republic of the Roman Republic. And started the civil war that would later lead to the Roman Empire. So that is what I see, that we have gone to things that we cannot come out from. What are the things that we cannot come out from? First of all is the militarization. Now the military and security forces are going to henceforth be the adjudicators, principal adjudicators, or the conductors of the opera that is the Ugandan election. I don't think that without any fundamental revolution, and revolution is not 1789 violence, no, it can be a fundamental change of ideas, of leadership, of society. I don't see that this, for example, militarization of the elections is going to stop from, how they are warning, they're saying vote and go home. This election is supposed to be adjudicated by the EC constitutionally.
But it's
even
a CDF giving.
Yes, it's a CDF giving you, telling you what to do.
Is confirming it, the police spokesperson
and then the chairman EC is coming to defend the position.
What was said is true.
It's true. That you guys, and he gets all these reasons why you should vote and go home. Secondly, the internet shut down. this is going to be effectively used as a weapon whenever anything rises. And I don't think that now it's just going to be elections. Whenever you say, remember the other, I think some people, when they try to walk against a speaker or something,
yes.
Now in the coming days, you're going to see that every small thing that wants to organize something of a civil nature, of a civil either uprising, a protest, internet is going to be, of course now they have standardized it as this is how we get them to stop organizing, to not communicate,
and give us a chance to control the
and give us just black them out.
Because even in the midst of internet blackout, the official social media handles of some of these state organs continued tweeting.
Yes.
You shut out the internet and you're putting that notice on X and on Facebook and what.
So those are things that I think that we will not come out of. And if time was there, I would tell you the third thing, which is this whole denomination of candidates before.
Yeah.
So these powerful people.
New, but
I don't. Yes. Now that people have tested it, they tell us in wildlife and whatever conservation that when a lion kills, it's a human being. They demobilize it because it has tested the blood, and human beings, because we take sugars, we take what, our meat is more than the other tasty than the other meat of so now that these people have tested that I can actually, Okot is standing against me, has all the credentials, but I can find a way.
Why should I spend $2 billion in an election when I can make sure that he does not get ousted on the ballot?
And to some of these people, it's not even about elections, because some of these people actually have money. It's not a bit about the money. It's about this thing is now you flex that no, me, I'm unopposed. The term unopposed seems to come with a certain flex of,
because it can't be a coincidence, and for the context of our viewers, that when NRM was cooking its campaign plan, everyone they needed on the campaign trail to assist the president somehow turned out unopposed. Like it's not coincidence, and it's a strategic thing. And you can see how many people were denominated, and even if we see the statistics, how many NRM candidates were denominated. Were they the most organized?
Maybe you also need to ask yourself how many opposition candidates went through unopposed.
Yes. After the process of what the EC was doing of cleaning, or actually doing corrections of its own its own vetting process. Because if you vetted and completed, how come you're doing this over and over again?
And I was speaking to someone from Bodiope, and they told me that if that gentleman had stayed in the race, it would have been incredibly difficult for
the guy who said that resigned from police, and then
would have been incredibly
acceptance. Yes,
he was
of course, he was a popular guy,
popular person, but also he belonged to the team Rebecca,
team Mama.
Yes.
So team Mama and team Moko, I think. So team Moko was soundly defeated.
That's true.
Team Moko was soundly defeated.
It's one of the things that we'll discuss actually on how Busoga played out and why it did the way it did. But Okot, there's something I wanted to ask you. One of the worrying things that we have seen, and you touched a little bit on it, is our voter turnout. Our voter turnout, the National Media Group ran the breakdown of the voter turnout per district, actually per region. Uganda had 45, Acholi 45, West Nile 48, I will just sample, Bukedi 59, Kampala 70, and the biggest turnout was in Ankole with 73. Teso 63 and stuff like that. But the average, of course, as you saw, being I think around 52. So is this an advantage, or is it a deliberate move that we do not pay attention by the government? Or is it a natural reaction to people saying, I cannot participate in this thing that you call an election? Because there's a one way to view it. I can say that this is an unofficial boycott of the electorate from a sham election process. Or I can say that it's a tool that has been used by someone, that the fewer the numbers, the more I can have leeway to what some people have said, that this was not a free and fair election. I just wanted you to weigh in on that.
I think it could have been a tool unknowingly, because when you listen to President Museveni, he certainly believes that he still has the favor of the population and in good numbers. And that's why when you see him saying that maybe if the other 10 million had voted, he would have the opposition would have had much less than
Is
what
it
they
a
got.
fact? Is it delusion? Is it false intelligence?
It could be false intelligence
Or politicking?
or politicking. But when we are looking at voter turnout, we also need to focus on the regions. Yeah, Buganda or Central had probably one of the lowest voter turnouts.
Uganda had 70%.
Buganda had 45.
Oh, 45.
Yes.
Other than Kampala.
Yeah.
Kampala alone had the Buganda in general, because it was a regional.
Yes. But now when you go to the Western, which is
Ankole.
President Museveni's stronghold,
73%.
73%. And then you go to the East, which has of recent become a very good supporter
For the
of
yellow
President Museveni. Yeah. And then the North, you realize that their voter turnout had actually gone up.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
You're seeing a pattern of the
There is a-
strongholds for the yellow camp
yes,
having a higher voter turnout.
having a higher voter turnout. Maybe what we now need to find out, why is it that in those areas the voter turnout has gone up, and in Central it
Where
has
the
gone.
opposition
Yes.
could claim as a stronghold,
Yeah.
it's low voter turnout.
Yes. Isn't this where a lot more violence happens? Isn't this where a lot more people are literate, so they have access to a lot of information, including that information that was discouraging them from
Just going to the polls.
just going to the polls? So those are some of the things that we need to look at when we are looking at the voter turnout.
I
Yeah.
get you.
Because there are some regions where the voter turnout went up, and there is probably reasons. Yeah, the West has always voted the president. The North and East, they've
they are the
of
new-
late, there is a new marriage.
Yes.
Yeah. Now there is an older marriage that seems to be breaking.
That's true.
Yeah. Though, of course, again, when you look at it again, you see
There was
that,
actually, surprisingly, the resurgence of UPC,
yes,
which you can't deny from these polls.
exactly. And then the FDC.
Yes.
I don't know if you expected the FDC to have 10
Yeah, MPs.
MPs. Yeah. And then my disappointment is now in PFF. Is it because Dr. Besigye was not around to
incarcerated.
mobilize for them, to help them mobilize? So there are so many disappointments, but also encouraging things in this election to look at. Yeah.
Nicholas, two things. The first one is sad, the loss of lives in the election. And surprisingly, contrary to our previous elections, where the election violence would be shared by two, Okot has covered maybe the last 2 or 3 elections and can tell us, most of the violence would be two varying camps doing dirty by themselves, which was the trend in Rengo, Maogola, Sembabule, in parts of the West. But most of the lives that were lost in this election were at the hands of the security forces, which was a new thing that we had the NUP vice president of Uganda, the shooting and the news that was broken by NTV. The shooting happened in his home, where he's saying that as a normal candidate, I was asking every agent to come back home and show me the DRR form so that we tally to see if it makes sense with what will be declared. Police comes and says this was terrorism. They were actually planning to attack a police station. You cannot try that. And they try to control the narrative and etc. At first, they said that the shooting was on the roadside. And later, of course, there were news that were showing bullet holes on the garage doors, at home. For a gentleman who had actually been mocked that he stays in his mother's home, they knew the mother was at that home. Was it extreme? And as up to now, there are people, there are news that we are still getting of the people that were killed at the hands of the security forces. Is it something, and the reaction, surprisingly, is normal. It's not an alarming news out there. It's not like a major house is profiling these deaths. Is it
That was the purpose.
Is it an acceptance that should be unacceptable?
One, first of all, Harold, we must understand that issue is not in isolation. The fact that when crime is going to happen, what happens is that most people choose that it happens under the cover of darkness. Why is it more dangerous at night to say, don't take borders from here, don't walk through this thing, don't carry a bag? It's because there is darkness.
Of course. Someone
can come from the vicinity, even in your immediate vicinity, and you're not able to see them. So what happened in this election was that because of the intentions of what, should I say the state, or should I say the regime, what wanted to carry out, they first made sure that internet is off. So even if you record a video, by the time you put it in, people have moved on. And by the way, what happened the other day, we came discussing it, the people had gone to vote up country, that when internet was finally restored, I think it was Sunday night, Monday morning, thereabouts.
Saturday
night, Sunday morning. People were more glad that, we are back, than being angry at the fact that we have actually businesses have died.
Like the major achievement was I have my internet back, as opposed to what did I miss?
What was happening?
Yeah, what was happening?
Oh, thank Jesus, we are back. I'm
like
not complaining.
The internet addiction was more of an adrenaline they needed, as opposed to
people wanted to because it was some kind of prison. You don't know what is happening. You cannot, I remember I used to have to call for even people like who's traditional.
I called you over 8 times during that blackout, which has never happened.
Was one in Kampala, was one here.
But also, Harold, I think we need to be cognizant of what was happening in our neighborhood, and the state must have been acting under the presumption that under the thinking that should they allow something like that to happen here,
uncontrollable,
they might not be able to contain it. So shutting down the internet and then doing whatever they
was a reaction of the Tanzania and Kenyan experience.
Yes. I don't think they wanted to see a Tanzania here or a Kenya-like demonstration happening in Kampala.
Now, thank you, Comrade Okot, but respectfully, I want to step away from
that narrative.
Because you see, the Bible says that the wicked run when no one is chasing them. Because the question is, what do you want to do that will cause that kind of reaction? It means you want to shoot people in Butambara. You want to steal elections en masse in Kampala Central. You want to cause violence in Nakawa East and whatever. What you're planning to do, you're seeing that there might be an equal and opposite reaction. What if people push back?
Yes.
If today,
you have nothing to hide.
The reason why the internet is on today, is because there is nothing that is happening that can incite the people.
It's not that it's a good thing, but
you're trying to understand where they are coming from.
Where they are coming from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Explain their reason.
For me, I think
no matter how right or wrong that it might be.
For me, I think not that's where they are coming from. I think it comes from the question you asked. Is that there's something they are trying to hide. It's more of what they are trying to hide, what they are trying to get away with. Because the state has always controlled demonstrations here without removing the internet. This would be the first time that they will need to remove the internet. If we go by president's sake, from Tojikwata, from way back of Walk to Work,
even Kayunga riots,
when you compare those riots with what is happening today, you see. Let's use the example of the Kayunga riots. That was 2009.
Yeah, of course it was.
How many people had access to social media?
Definitely.
No, you're right.
The times have changed.
The times have changed. We have now millions of people.
But what you see, my narrative is the state in Uganda was the first one in East Africa to use an internet blackout as a tool for masses control. Kenya followed next and Tanzania did it in the previous election. The argument that I would push for is that the state knows how much can come, especially from the northern spring, the Arab Spring, because it was the internet that drove. One man puts himself on fire, makes rounds on the internet, everyone is amassing. You can imagine if I'm a state operative and I see what Team Karejira is posting, you get my point on who is Googled most in Uganda. And that face is not Kaguta Museveni and it is Bobi Wine. You want to control that tool and remove it from controlling the narrative, because those facts do not lie. And there's someone whose desk 8 to 5 role is to say, what are Ugandans looking at?
But do you realize that the last 2 elections, we've not had opinion polls?
Yes. From the media houses.
I think we had an opinion poll from some place that Museveni was leading.
No, you must know who had run that opinion poll. I am privileged to represent as counsel one of the media houses. So I would receive the notices that UCC was sending to media houses, which if in a serious democratic institution.
I actually appeared at some media house the other day on a talk show, and there was something
like a placard
written there in very clear terms in capital letters. No comments about the internet shutdown. No exceptions.
Now I'm giving you context that was an instruction from the regulator in UCC. And I think
the media houses must abide by
the parameters that they were given to cover the election. The space was squeezed. An average Ugandan cannot know that. And of course, even the narrative that some media houses were pushed and were pushing an agenda for maybe the state, that can be discussed. But the bigger picture on this is that this has gone on to be acceptable. And the person who's writing to you that letter or signing it in Nyombi Tembo is sending videos during the blackout when he's celebrating the victory of the ruling government. And that narrowing down of the space, you've talked about opinion polls, the rules of debates, how much they could cover. We saw a letter from UCC that was strict on what media houses should cover in terms of reporting provisional result, and one of the media houses doing it. And there have been 1,000 comments on what, and maybe we'll comment on that later, to say that there was a sort of control. And even some of, because it's not loser speech by some of the losing opposition members, where they said this, they would mention names of someone in security forces, how they came and controlled, took away DRR forms and what? Like the militarization, the commercialization. I come from Shema, and what was happening a day before the elections? Money going to chairman LC1.
Yes, same.
And you come from the Western Uganda, you know. And people would sit. I can tell you on the 14th and the 13th that meetings on village levels in Western Uganda where people would sit. So is everyone going to receive the 10,000, or we keep it for Meziche and buy chairs for those barrio groups? And this is blatantly voter bribery. But you cannot face it like that because of the structures that are talked about here and there. And that leads me to the next question that I wanted to ask you, Okot. The money effect.
The money effect.
Two angles. One, the purchase of the biometrics that did not work. You know how much was bought. Two, the small effects of the internet shutdown. The CEO, East African Magazine ran an article. You should read it if you haven't. That was showing how much Airtel and MTN had lost in 2 days, and I think it was 24 billion.
24 billion.
24 billion. And also the money that was injected in such an election vis-a-vis the voter turnout and what. Please, just weigh in on that.
Now, you see, with regards to the money in our elections, you see, of course, it's now inevitable.
And also even the mobile money shutdown, you should,
it's now inevitable for money to be used in elections. You're either going to need money to pay your agents, you're going to need money for water, you're going to need money for several other things, hiring a venue. Now, where the challenge comes in is when you are using a lot of money, unregulated money. And with unregulated money can come illegal or illicit money. It could be money coming from...
We even have a lot to talk about, even the NGOs that were closed right before.
Yes.
Please.
It could
proceed.
be money coming from gun running. It could be money coming from foreign agents. It could be money coming from people that within the country, but have interests. Yeah.
Candidate X and candidate Y.
So the challenge normally is in that kind of money that is unregulated. These normal costs, those are understandable. But if I give you, Harold, let's say 20 million, you've done nothing for me. Yeah. Let's say I'm a businessman, top businessman in Kampala. When you go through,
I expect somehow like a 20 million to bring back fruits.
Yes, because you imagine, if someone spends, let's say, 1 billion shillings in an election, if you try to calculate the salary, the official salary of a member of parliament for the 5 years, they may not make that 5 billion, that billion. Yeah. What then is the incentive for spending that money?
Because it doesn't not make commercial sense.
That's how you start seeing people appearing before, let's say, a public accounts committee or COSASE. Yeah. They are being squeezed, but all of a sudden you see them being
set free.
Yeah.
Someone is working.
They are trying to get back their money. Yeah. And then you see certain contracts being awarded to some people,
entities.
Some entities. Yeah. Because now you'll imagine now you're going to see the speakership race coming up. Yeah?
How much money might?
You're going to see the amount of money that will be spent in that election.
In a college, yes.
Yes. You're going to see that there will be business people funding candidates. Yeah? Because the institution of parliament itself gives out a lot of work.
That's true.
Yeah. So if you're a businessman in Kampala,
that you supported Nicholas as speaker.
Yes. You're going to be looking at, okay, I'm supporting Harold with over $100,000 strategically, but I need this contract. But in the end, there is someone who is going to suffer the cost of that.
Yes.
You, the person who is down there that expects a service, may not get a proper service.
I'm at the tail end of that transaction.
Yeah. You can use, let's say, the airline. Things happen. Yeah. And you've previously seen or heard of allegations of corruption in parliamentary committees.
That's true. Sadly true.
Yeah. But why do you think these people get into that kind of thing? It's because they've had to spend a lot of money in elections. They are trying to recoup. It is now an investment. It is not like someone is just offering to serve the people. I used to do work on campaign finance, and we had a bill we were trying to pass through parliament between 2016 and 2020. And again 2021. Yes. Now that bill was going to help us streamline financing in elections.
That was under NDI, or it was just a different project?
It was under some organizations, supported by some organizations. But the reason was that, you see, people were overspending. Yeah. And in trying to get into parliament using a lot of money, they would find themselves not doing the work.
The primary work that
they were supposed to do.
The legislator is supposed to do.
Yeah. So you'd find that there are candidates that had spent over 4 billion. How do you get back 4 billion if it's not
5
through
years.
corruption? So again, you'd find members of parliament who are highly indebted. Yeah.
No money lenders that strategically open offices around.
Are all over around them. And then you have members of parliament that only leave parliament premises at midnight.
That's true.
Yeah? They're running away from money lenders. But much as these people understood the problem, and the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee had agreed with the proposals.
What was the format of the proposals, just for the understanding of the people? How would you control that through legislation?
We would have transparency in terms of funding.
Where are you getting the money?
Where are you getting the money? And then there would be limits on how much you would spend in an election. Yeah, depending on the size of the constituency or population. Yeah, and then there would be limits on how much someone would donate to you. And then there would be reporting requirements. Yeah, so it would work in such a way that if I am candidate X and you are candidate Y, we are contesting in the same election, I would have the obligation to try and ensure that I know what you're doing. Yeah, such that if you violate that law, I can easily petition for you to be put aside. But also, there was another thing that was coming in. If you are found guilty of having committed any of the offenses in there, you'd be barred from contesting for a certain period of time. And that's one of the challenges we have today, that a candidate is found guilty of having committed the offense of voter bribery.
In a petition?
Yes.
But there are no...
In the next by-election.
Yes.
He's standing again.
He's standing again. It means that you are actually encouraging
the behavior.
The vice.
Which dragons spilled fire on that bill, and why?
They understood that this bill was necessary, and the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee had agreed to most of the provisions we had suggested. But in our engagements with members of parliament again, you could get the feeling that they could not legislate themselves out of power, because this was their source of getting into parliament. They could not see themselves.
You can't take away that weapon from them.
Exactly. So they could understand that it was necessary, but they didn't have the political will to go ahead and legislate.
Because it would be suicide.
Yes.
We could go on and on election process, but let's just now switch to the election results. Nicholas.
Yes, please.
Did the results reflect what people voted? What is on the streets, and what's your opinion on what happened?
Well, my opinions are very well documented on this podcast from before the election was cast. From what we were seeing, as actually predicted, I told you, Harold, that Museveni would have a bigger percentage
than what he had
last time, because I told you that there is a way they had curated this election. Because I felt that...
To be vacuumbuzi for the opposition.
Because I felt that, and no wonder Museveni was boasting in his speech how the opposition has now become weak and branding them terrorists, you know. And the results mirroring what people voted in the ballot, I think not, personally, to a larger extent. Well, we can make exceptions to the general rule in so many areas that, you know, have fallen to... We were talking about the weakness of the FDC, which has strengthened the NRM in some parts. Some people, instead of coming to the NUP, which is now the most forerunner of opposition, reverted back to the NRM. And the NRM also became very, very aggressive. And I'd said it on this pod that I feel like the 2021 election caught them unawares, especially here in Uganda. You know, and I remember saying that the NRM is not going to allow, and I was careful with my words, that it's not going to allow the way they were caught unawares in 2021, the whole of Uganda falling, you know.
They were not going to allow that.
They were not going to allow that. That's how...
that insult.
Yes, that's how, and we talked about it when you asked me the question of the guns becoming. I feel like there are certain constituencies that were targeted, that in good or bad, by hook or crook, we don't want this person back. Mwanga Chivumbi is now in jail. And by the way, Mwanga Chivumbi, the reason why he's in jail is not because people don't know what happened. It's because in the president's speech, victory speech, he's called him a terrorist.
Yeah.
He said he has. So the police must find.
And he's been charged.
The police
with terrorism.
cannot make the president a lie. The president can't lie. He must
justify his speech.
Yeah, either Mwanga Chivumbi is in prison because what the president said, or the president was lying. So if you're the police, what do you do? So they are between a rock and a hard place. They must produce evidence that supports the case of what the president said in his victory speech, that Mwanga had organized vigilantes to come and
attack a police station.
Yeah, attack a police station, and yes. So he's a victim. His people were dead, and the violence was from, but they must find a way. I feel, and so many constituencies that were targeted. We were having a casual discussion here before the show about Kampala, Central, Nakawa East, Kawempe. Jinja,
actually, yes, though they were not successful, but
yes. Lutamaguzi, if you heard what he has been saying about the way they deployed against him, So I feel like some constituencies were actually really, really targeted, and the ones that, because and sometimes we shouldn't adjudge the opposition harshly, and I've seen people who without
the 360 study of the atmosphere
of the situation. Say, these guys had 57 MPs, now they have 51. But do you understand how these 51 also have come to be 51? And they are not even 51 yet. You've heard about the recount in Kalungu. And
the latest we have is that 2 of the ballot boxes were open, and there was a strange one, so they can't go on with the recount.
So the environment, you have to compound what the environment that they have been going in, they have been running this election in from way back. When President Museveni was doing the PDM tours, it was basically campaigning, but the opponents are not allowed to go and mobilize the grassroots. Then you find people now. The NUP had no what are they called? Agents on 40% of the people are just speaking, but they don't give.
Why
don't they have a person guarding votes in Shema district? Why don't they have someone guarding votes in Alebutong? It's because they're not allowed to mobilize. They're not allowed the space to actually exist. What they have it against a very, very, very strong storm. So for me, I personally think that the NRM set a target and said that I feel like they were coming from a place they had said that we must get 70% by all means possible.
I get you.
And the people who watch our show know that sometimes my submissions are controversial, but for me that's what I think, is that they set a thing and said this is what we are going to get at the end of this electioneering period. That's why even when the votes were coming in, and I don't know if we are going to talk about that or this is the time, the chairman of the EC didn't know where these votes that I'm announcing.
They said, which districts have you covered with this
how much percentage, how they are coming in, how that information is now not even available even as for now. If you say
that actually leads to my next question.
50% of the votes have come in, where are they coming from?
I had an exchange yesterday on one of the social media pages with I think one of the highest officials for Next Media. And the issue that the opposition and everyone who says that let's first forget this process leading to the poll day. Our biggest issue is the tallying process. Because I think we saw many people have seen the videos of where people were ticking ballot papers and ticking one candidate on the bus. But people's major request was, if you're giving provisional results, tell us, we are now reading results from Bushenyi, Shema, Mbarara, Uganda, Kabale, and this is the percentage. Like the breakdown of districts, which we did not have. Because by the nature, and if you know the Ugandan election, at the district tally centers, they just announce the MP, they continue counting, they send to the national tally center.
Yes.
You do not have a declaration of the presidential election at the district tally center, which I think is the beginning of a problem. Because if NBS comes and says, and this is an official person speaking in official capacity, saying that we had bureau chiefs, reporters, and there's another word.
Correspondents.
And correspondents from all the 146 districts and tally centers. And that's how we were getting our provisional results. But at one point, you have such a media station ahead of the EC. I think by the time EC was declaring the third round, they were on 93 or 97%. But when they declare now, they reduce the percentage of some of the candidates, and you task EC to declare per district, and it cannot.
Now you see, Harold, the reason why people were agitating for those machines.
Yes, the biometrics voter.
The biometric machines. Is that there is a lot more transparency in them. What we should be asking ourselves, why last minute
They failed.
they failed? But we also have districts where those machines worked.
Even in yesterday's election, I think some districts.
Even in yesterday's election, in Rengo, they said they worked 100%.
There are some
Something like
districts.
that,
See? So we should be looking at ensuring that such biometric machines are made to work in an election.
But would they solve the problem that we're talking about?
They would
I think
resolve most of the problems as regards to transparency. Because the moment your fingerprint is in there, it automatically shows on the system. Yeah.
Harold has voted or what has voted.
It now becomes difficult for them for whoever wants to
Play around with the numbers.
system or play around with the numbers to do that. Yeah. But when you start relying on a manual register, where you don't have agents, you don't even have candidates, how do you expect that process
To favor you.
to be in your favor or to produce the same level of transparency as opposed to when you have machines?
I get you.
Yeah. So, and you see, in 2016, the Supreme Court was particular when it was giving its recommendations. One of the recommendations they gave was the EC should ensure that the biometric machines work and a legal framework for them is put in place
before the next election.
Yeah. So much as we now had a legal framework and the machines in place, we don't know why exactly they failed to work. But also, if you know that you're going to have an election on Jan 15th, why do you bring those machines in just 2 weeks? 2 weeks to the election.
No training, no nothing.
Nothing.
No orientation.
Nothing. Yeah. But that has an impact on the integrity of the election. It means that it is less believable. The results are less believable. But if you have those machines there, people would be like, okay, what excuse do I have? Things would be...
Where will I attack these results from?
The case would be a little bit more...
Nicholas, please weigh in on that same point.
No, I think that Comrade Okot is correct. I think that the BVVK machines were meant to iron out some things. I had not known actually the extent of what they do, but I realized that there's actually so many things. When you log into the system, people can't vote twice. People can't, all these percentages. And when we talked about voter turnout, I had hesitated to talk about it. But you see, part of the reason the voter turnout is, and some people highlighting them from in the West, is because you find polling stations, sub-counties, even sometimes districts that have 100% voter turnout. Is that honestly?
It can't be that in the last 5 years,
Yes.
No one has
in
died.
polling station
Even 3 years, okay, since the registration.
no one has shifted to another country or another district and can't probably come back and vote from there.
Or box in Kampala.
No
and
one has
vote.
passed on.
No one has passed on. No one is sick. No one is something. So voter turnout, even as we analyze it, we have to give it some kind of perspective and context, especially the West, because like you said, in places where these opposition candidates don't have candidates, because for us, because we had I think there's this young boy who had become a NUP candidate in my constituency, so he had his agents all over the constituencies, and ours was really a very peaceful election and without a lot of irregularities. But so we must give that some kind of context. So the deliberate, and I believe, and I saw people trying to ask Ron Kawa. I think Ron Kawamara was in one of
the company that supplied that.
In the procurement in one or two ways, and they were saying we must no, this young man is actually innocent. He did his job. He procured the machines. Yeah, the question is, did the machines who stopped the machines from actually functioning? Did the candidate, the foremost candidate, want these machines to work? How comes that the same machines that failed to work in the presidential race are now working at mayor level? Yeah. So was there a deliberate plan that this machine should not work? Like the same thing I was talking about, was there a deliberate plan to keep the process under some kind of dome of darkness so that whoever wants to do whatever they want to do can actually do it without a lot of light being shed?
Let's talk about the reaction to the election. And it's in 3 phases. Nicholas, you're going to tell me about the reaction by the opposition. Because in the aftermath of the election, one of the things that made news was the security forces breaking into Bobi Wine's home, somehow Bobi Wine running away, the religious council coming to visit the family with no food, the elders visited with no food. Of course, she also didn't serve them food because she said, I don't have food. Bobi Wine is still in hiding. The first son comes and does the tweets again, some as crazy as they might sound. There's an exchange with an international CNN correspondent in Larry Madowo. The reaction of the election in the eyes of how and of course we had statements from the different opposition leaders and candidates. Tell me about the reaction of the opposition, and if it was the right reaction in the aftermath of this election that we are discussing, or what is going to tell me about the reaction and maybe Museveni's victory speech. And what you also made, specifically for Okot, the performance of General Mugisha Gregory Muntu and the political future of the ANT. Let's first do with Nicholas.
Thank you, Harold. I think mostly the reaction of the change-seeking Ugandans has been one of helplessness. They are orphans. There is nothing that they can run to. They have been overpowered at every level because Rubonga is saying he won in all constituencies except where?
Two.
Two. And in those two, one of them, I'm told, had like 400 registered voters. And
that's a summit view?
And the lady was getting like 2,000 votes. Yeah. And then one where they chased.
Near State House, yes.
Yes. One, I think downtown in Chisenyi where the guy came, this rogue, came and beat everyone and ticked ballots and kicked everything and chased away people. So, but where can he report? Who will believe him? Nobody is going to believe him. He cannot seek redress.
He actually says he went to police to report and no one gave him attention.
Yes.
By 11 a.m. he was at police.
Yeah. He's probably maybe going to file a petition, but he knows how it will end because he knows that these actions have been sanctioned from the man in the high castle, from far above. Yeah. So when you have Mwanga Chivumbi, who is a victim, whose people was killed, has been arrested, is in prison. You have Rutamaguzi crying. You have so many people at different levels crying about. You have the whole leader is running away. Yeah. So there's some sort of helplessness. There's no and I think that this is something that Museveni must have felt in 80 when, after being, of course he was not the most forerunner, but after witnessing the exercise of Paul Mwanga in 1980 election, there's no way I can run to. The Wakombos are here. The courts will not give me redress. The police and security forces are all under Obote and Obote's agents. I can't. Yes, I have no outlet. And this is a very dangerous place. Harold was saying it casually, but this is a very dangerous place where you find the emotions are bottled up, and people, some of them, the weak-willed ones, have silently resigned. Of what can I do? That is what I could do. What can I do?
I get you.
So there is a general feeling of hopelessness.
Was Bobi Wine's reaction justified? Would you expect more in the aftermath of the election? Is it the reality of the atmosphere he's operating
No, Harold,
under.
if the CDF of this country and the son of the president was saying, I will get you, I will slaughter you, I will first remove your testicles, I will do this, I would also be hiding. This is, apart from far away behind, the man. Back when we were young people, we used to listen to, these artists back in high school, and there's a guy who said that, in a song he said that everyone sees wine, but behind little wine is actually the wine. Like I am a person behind the stage name. Everyone was judging him because he was young, was a superstar, was doing so many things. Everyone judges the superstar, but behind the superstar there is actually an individual, a person, a young man with dreams, with aspirations, with a family, with confusion, didn't grow up with a father. So Bobi Wine, let's not judge him because he's the leader of opposition.
Definitely.
Behind him
is Robert Sentamuchaga, a father, a son,
can be judged as being, but imagine his family who have not seen him in over a year. Imagine him being there, he's sick, he's whatever, beyond the political names and everything. There is actually an individual who has a family who knows that if I stay, because for him, I think his escape was strategic, is that if I stay inside this house, it means that my family is not safe because I am staying with them, I am staying with someone who is wanted by the state or he's being harassed. So he thought that maybe taking attention away would relieve his family at home of the pressure they are facing, the barricade, they're under siege, they're like the enemies.
Last one on this for you.
Yes.
Before Okot comes in with his part of the victory speech.
And maybe maybe you can interdict after.
Yes, please.
In what
but
I've saying.
My question to you is, what should be on the to-do list and the work plan of the opposition in Uganda in the next 5 years?
Now, the opposition is in a quandary, or if you like, it's between a rock and a hard place. It's in a dilemma, like Cindy sings about. It's an uptown guy and a ghetto youth. So, what is the dilemma? The dilemma is this. They have clearly seen the playbook of President Museveni, that this is how he treats the opposition. It doesn't matter who you are. Apart from, of course, Semogere, like you were saying, because then they had not come out. The guns had not come out blazing. And today I was telling guys that now the gloves are off. You were seeing the way they were trying to do the election of Balimwezo and the youth councillors. So someone adding a zero.
And forgetting to change the figure.
Yes, but even that, you forgot that on this polling station, and actually we're talking about voter turnout, this one was worse. Because of what people... And in yesterday night, NTV on NTV News, I watched the news on NTV, and guys were saying by some polling station delayed to start because the law is there must be 10 witnesses before the boxes are opened. And
they waited for them up to midday.
From 7, some people would wait until 10 before 10 people show up. Can you imagine? And these are local leader elections. Local leaders are always more on the ground.
That's true.
Than
the MPs
and president. Yeah. So and everyone was saying every time we vote, our voices are not heard. So the voter turnout was
very low.
Was very, very low. Yeah. So when it goes back to
what they should do,
I find them between two hard spaces. One, if they continue this challenge Museveni in a legal election, they know what is going to come their way. Is what has happened. There is no different script. This is a script that Besigye was under. This is a script that Robert Kyagulanyi is under. This is a script that will be under anyone who comes the same way they have come. Yeah? If they decided to boycott the election, that is even better for Museveni, because what he does, he comes and talks to Okot,
very nicely.
says Okot.
We saw the news
put on a court.
Presidential petition,
yes.
Which at first was a rumor of two of the 8 presidential candidates who had been approached allegedly by the ruling party to lodge a presidential petition. I know how that plays because in 2021, I know people, I don't want to mention names, where they had approached, because some of the lawyers that work for the state make a lot of good money in a petition. Apart from it justifying and being the last crowning the cake of the election, it's a very good money-making venture. It would be a very big loss if there's no presidential petition. And we know the rumors or the news that made rounds on the meetings that took place to make sure that there's a petition. And we are going to hear
Don't
one.
forget judicial officers are also part.
Yes.
Yes.
Electoral Commission also has to check in on that. Yeah.
So
The judiciary had just undergone a week-long training before the
yes,
elections.
yes, in Ginger.
In Ginger.
Yeah.
And then, of
All that
course,
can't be in vain.
of course,
Yes.
You can't sit on that cake.
So if they say they will not come, they will not participate, they will come talk to a court, throw him a coat, give him a good tie, give him signatures and say, you are now you're now the guy, give him a budget, he's advertising on
We might
NBS and whatever.
need you.
You know, and then he becomes a challenger.
of course, there has to be legitimacy.
Yes.
That's true.
So I find that there is the space, and this is dangerous, guys. I say things very, very casually, but you see, when you completely close any space, you know, but pressure is building, but you have bottled up that pressure, you know.
It creates its own
So now
exit.
the opposition must be asking themselves, and maybe Comrade Okot is going to interject in and give
He's
us
the expert. We brought
that-
him as the expert.
Those are the two
Please
legal.
defend your title.
This is the expert. For us, we are casual people. Yeah. Those are the two legal ways that it is to boycott or to continue an election. But if you continue, this is the way, and the way has gloves are off now. Broad daylight, thuggery, intimidation, every member, and these are, like I told you, these are people behind the whatever. Imagine what Honorable Chagwang feels when all the one around him who has believed in him has been arrested. They have families. You know, some people were arrested in the last election, have not yet made it back, even for the cases to be ready
Now
to
over
them.
400
you know?
in again.
They are still on remand 5 years later. You
Those
know?
who didn't make a deal.
So the
are
question
still in
is,
with no trial.
do everything that happens break our will, or do we continue to push? If you continue to push, which direction? Do we continue to face the man in the arena in which he will
sets and
definitely
sets the rules.
He sets the rules. Now he has appointed a Chief Justice who will oversee the electoral petition.
Me
You
and
know,
Okot might not be at liberty to comment.
the legal options seem to be very, very, very limited for the
Look
opposition.
more of a tool to rubber stamp what he wants to happen.
So they can only hope for something that is out of the bounds of legality, but
What?
we shall not
Wait.
go into that.
Now, you see, we shouldn't tire, because you see, democracy is a struggle. And each time you put in an effort, you may achieve some, you may lose some, but you do not stop struggling for a better democracy. Let's just
To
look
give up
at,
is an
yes.
achievement to the other side.
Let's just look at the last 3 presidential election petitions. Yeah, starting from 2006, there have been wins from those petitions
For democracy in this Uganda.
democracy. Yeah, the biggest one being the one of 2016.
Yes.
Because that
Mama
one,
Babazi.
the Supreme Court came up with a number of recommendations, including the biometric
Sure.
thing. And then there were recommendations regarding increasing the number of days they could use to hear and determine a presidential election petition. Those have increased. There are other things also that keep coming up. Their only problem has been failure on the substantive prayers that petitioners ask for. Yeah, because most times the petitioners want the election nullified. But of course, again, you can understand the politics around presidential election petitions. On the continent, we've only had one successful presidential election petition. But even when that election was nullified in Kenya, you saw the violence that ensued. Yeah, after. When you look at our 2006 election, presidential election petition, Professor Kanyehamba puts it very well in one of his books that they had gotten to a point
Of allowing to nullify.
the election. Yes. But between
1 a.m.
between midnight
Yes.
and morning,
The next morning.
things had changed. And again, you get to understand they are thinking from the thoughts of the former Chief Justice Benjamin Odoki, who argued that they were faced with a situation. Yeah, the country was going
Divided.
through. It was in a very tense situation. The incumbent promising violence if the election had been nullified. Do you want to have the country going to
382?
No, I think you do your job. I think you do your job.
Now, the Supreme Court does not just look at the law, yeah, because this is the topmost court. Yeah? They can send the country into a violent situation, but they can also avoid it. So, much as they did not nullify the election, there are some wins that came out of that election. Some reforms that came in 2015 could have come as a result of the 2015, 2011 could have come as a result of the tensions that were in that court in 2006. Yeah. So you may not win today in as far as nullifying the election is concerned, but there are certain things that you will win that have an impact on the growth of democracy in the country.
So the conversation is still very hot, and due to the constraints of time, we think that we will have to play this in two parts. So we are closing our part one of the Tales of the 2026 general election. From here, we are going to release part two that covers the remaining topics of what we put in our introduction, and that part two is going to be released in the course of the week. You do not want to miss the discussion on the transition, how the cabinet will look like, and the discussion of the ousted MPs and everything that we summarized for you in the part one. So all that will be put and in our part two. So you look out for the link in the course of the week, probably around Wednesday, so that you do not miss this very wonderful discussion.